Danny here from the Restless Heart Club. I am going to explain to you how you can plan your exercise even though you're on beta blockers, and how to monitor and how to improve. So the thing about beta blockers is they really mess with your heart rate. So when you start looking at training plans, etc., most cardio training plans are based off a target heart rate. So I'm going to teach you how to deal with that. I'm going to teach you an alternative that you can use, an alternative method, and you can get improvements. Now the good news is that people on beta blockers get the same cardio benefits as people without beta blockers. So you get the same impact on your health doing cardio as anybody else. So definitely worth doing some cardio. So I'm just going to say up front, do not start a fitness program without medical clearance. You're on beta blockers for a reason, so get the clearance. So we're going to talk about how to cardio train and then a little bit on strength training with your beta blockers. So straight into it. Recommended equipment: a chest strap heart rate monitor. I have a smartphone. It's okay to monitor my heart rate on a walk or a light jog. After that, it gets a little inaccurate. Spend the 40 or 50 bucks and get a chest strap heart rate monitor. I use one by Dash. I got on Amazon. It was like $44 Canadian. It's worked great for me for 2.5 years. It's a lot more accurate than my $700 Apple Watch. Get a smartphone running app so that you can connect this heart rate monitor to it. An interval timer is probably one already built into your running app. And you'll probably want a decent pair of shoes. And that's really all it takes to start rehabilitating or improving your cardio, even though you're on beta blockers. So, some habits you want to get into. You want to start taking your beta blockers at the same time each day while you go through this learning curve. So, I take a beta blocker twice a day. I take it at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. exactly. And I try to run at the same time each day. I generally run between 7 and 8 in the morning and 2 and 3 in the afternoon. So at my first run, I know I just took a beta blocker not long ago, and it's actually going to have a bigger impact on my heart rate than my afternoon run, where my beta blocker's coming past its half-life and the impact isn't so great. And it took me a while to learn this about myself. And if I hadn't given myself structured timing on my beta blocker and my workouts, it would have taken longer to figure all this out. So I recommend just have a set time where, you know, if you're 3 beta blockers a day, try to take them exactly 8 hours apart, same times each day, and do your evening walk or your morning run, same time each day. It's the best way to go while you're learning your magic number, which we'll get into. Well, you got this equipment. What you're going to monitor, first of all, is how you feel, your perceived exertion level, which we'll get into and we'll rate. But how you feel, how hard are you working? This is purely how you feel. You're also going to watch your heart rate monitor for decoupling events. A decoupling event is where, let's say you're working out at a 5 out of 10, but suddenly your heart rate jumps to 9 out of 10. So for me, I'll be doing a jog. I'll be at like, I'll go up maybe in a tempo pace. So I'll be at a heart rate of around 125 to 130. And suddenly my heart rate will jump to 150 and it'll stay there for a good minute. So I know it's not just my chest strap getting a little wonky, which occasionally will happen. So that's called a decoupling event, where your heart rate goes way outside where you would expect it to be given your exertion. And you're only going to be able to watch for that after you've done some training sessions and you got a really good feel about what your heart rate should be at, given how long ago you took your beta blocker and how hard you're working out. So you're looking for these decoupling events, and if you have one, you're just going to slow down for a minute. Your heart's going to come back. You're on a beta blocker. So your heart rate's just going to snap back to its lower heart rate. Especially if you have medical clearance, you're probably okay. So a little note before I dive into the meat of how to structure your exercise routines while on beta blockers. Okay, this is ballpark advice. I'm trying to teach you how to find your magic number. I don't have a magic number for you, so the numbers in this are just suggestions. So everyone is on a different type of beta blocker, and everyone's on a different dose, and everyone's on it for a different reason. This is to help you figure out what your magic numbers are. Okay, you need to learn your own tolerances and adjust accordingly. You'll learn your magic number. The magic number is basically how much you're going to subtract from any target heart rate formula to get a rough idea where your beta blocker controlled heart rate should be. I use the standard target heart rate formula of 220 minus your age, and then 60 to 70% of that's zone 2, or sort of what they might call the fat loss zone, and 80 to 90% of that's zone 4. Okay, so anything below your zone 2 is your zone 1. That's your active recovery pace. That's sort of a pace you can maintain for a while and not tire out. Experienced trainee. So I'm going to talk to the gung-ho guy who's been working out for a while first, and suddenly you find in your life you're on a beta blocker, your heart, you can't work as hard as you did, and your heart rates don't make sense anymore according to what you used to monitor. So that's purely the beta blocker doing that. Again, don't go off your beta blocker. You will overcome this, I can promise you. Actually, my workout intensity is right back to where it was when I was 40. That was 12 years ago. And I'm on beta blockers because I just train through it, and you can train through it too. So experienced trainee, I'm going to suggest your magic number is 10. And this is a kind of person, you've done some runs, you've done a 5K, you've done a 20K bike ride with comfort. Maybe even a 40K bike ride. I mean, you can do some cardio. So this is for you. Couch potatoes, I'm coming to you next. Using a target heart rate formula, we're going to subtract 10, determine your zones, and set up intervals accordingly, and monitor and tweak. So for example, using myself, age 52, standard formula, 220 minus age gives me 168. Minus my magic number, which I'm choosing 10. And now I have 158, and I'll calculate my zones from that. Okay, so zone 1 is anything less than what I got for zone 2. So zone 2 is 95 to 110 beats per minute. Doesn't seem like a whole lot, especially if you're used to more and you're used to working out without a beta blocker. This is your starting point, okay, and it's only a starting point. Zone 3, 71 to 80%. That's 111 beats per minute to 127. Zone 4, 128 to 142, and zone 5 is 143. Okay, so you're an advanced trainee, you know what those zones are for. Let's talk to the novices now, and we'll get into more detail on the zones and how they should feel now that we're at the novice section. Okay, so novice trainee, for you, I've selected a magic number of 20. When I had just come out of the hospital, and my first probably year with AFIB, I was afraid to work out. And I don't want that to be the case for anyone. I was afraid to work out. My health really declined. I weighed 325 pounds. If I went up the 2 flights of stairs in my house, I had to stop in the middle and catch my breath. My belly would squeeze, and I couldn't breathe while I was squatting down. So if I had to do work around the house that involved me working below my waist, man, it was a nightmare. And I don't want that for you. You need to get exercising. So we're going to use the same target heart rate formula. We're going to assume a magic number of 20. And this, even in that state, 20 worked for me. That's where I started. Okay, so probably will work for you. You can go lower though. It's okay. You got to start. So we're going to take the target heart rate formula, and we're going to do the same exercise. So 220 minus your age, 168 if you're 52. Subtract 20, we're starting at 148. So zone 2 is 89 to 104. That's your zone 2. Zone 3 is 105 to 118 beats a minute, and zone 4 is 119 over 133, and zone 5 is over 133. Now as a novice, you're not going to need to worry about zone 3, 4, and 5 for a while, okay? Because you don't have a cardio base. What's the point in getting good at sprints? You got to build that cardio base. The last method works for both the novice and for the experienced trainee, and it's by perceived exertion. So this is how you can determine what training zone you're in, just by how you feel. Now you should be monitoring this either way, with a heart rate method or not. You should be always monitoring your perceived exertion. Zone 1, this is your easy to maintain pace. So when you're working at this level, your body generates a little heat. It might get a little sweat, but it's the kind of pace you could maintain for half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour. and you're just fine. You don't need like a big recovery period after. You don't feel like you're just going to crawl in the hot shower and die. No, you're just fine. You can just do this pace for half an hour and an hour, and then go about your day. Zone 2 is where you're working up a sweat, but you could actually speak in full paragraphs. If you can't sing the lyrics to a song you're listening to, you're not in zone 2. But at the same time, you're working. So if you're on the treadmill, you picked up a bit of speed. If you're on the bike, you cranked the intensity a bit. But zone 2, you should be working up a sweat. At the end of like 30 minutes in zone 2, you should be sweating. You can speak in those paragraphs. That's your zone 2. Zone 3 is a zone I don't think you should actually work out in. Zone 3 is your race pace. So save it for races and save it for the week or two leading up to races. You're going to spend your time as a novice in zone 1, 2, and as an advanced, you're going to be in zone 2 and zone 4. Zone 4 is a pace. You can speak single words pretty much. Wouldn't want to do a sentence. And you can maintain it about 4 minutes max. So if you're in a pace that you can maintain for more than 4 minutes, you're probably actually in tempo. You're zone 3. So zone 4 is at the end of the 4 minutes, you're dying, you need a rest period. Zone 5 is your flat out sprint, 200 meter dash. You don't really need this in your exercise program until you get kind of specialized and you're going for specialized goals. So a sample workout based off your perceived exertion. Well, really, it would probably work for all levels, but I would concern about the novices. You before you get into intervals, build a bit of a cardio base. So a sample workout based off perceived exertion. You're going to do about 5 minutes in zone 1, then 10 minutes in zone 2, and that's your warm-up. So good, solid 15-minute warm-up. You're going to do a 4-minute interval in zone 4, and then you're going to do the 2 to 3 minutes in zone 2. So 4 minutes where it's, you're really feeling it. You're at the end of zone 4 minutes, you're done. Then you're going to drop to zone 2. You're going to stay there for 2 to 3 minutes. You're going to repeat that interval 4 to 6 times, and then you're going to do 10 minutes in zone 2 as a cool down and 5 minutes in zone 1 as a cool down, and that's about an hour workout. You're really going to feel like you worked out at that point. So that's how you could use perceived exertion instead of heart rate zones. And there's lots of ways to mix that up. Suggested training cycles. So I've broken this down into couch potato, novice trainee, and advanced trainee. And this is purely on cardio aerobic fitness. So the couch potato was me October 2021. That was me. I really feel like if you're a couch potato, you know it. So you need to start by working up to 45 minutes of zone 1 exercise daily. If all you can do is walk a couple of 100 feet, that's where you start. Do it twice a day, then work up to 3 times a day, and then work up to 500 feet. And then pretty soon you're doing a kilometer, and then you're doing a mile, and then you're doing 2 miles. You want to work up to where you're in zone 1, and you can do that for 45 minutes a day. Once you're there, you want to be doing that still 3 times a week at 45 minutes in zone 1. Plus you're going to do 2 20-minute sessions in zone 2. You're going to get acclimated to zone 2, to the work effort. The couch potato weekly volume, again, start with a lot of walking. Walking's amazing. And then the second part, once you're walking 45 minutes 5 times a week and you're comfortable with that and you're starting to pick up speed a bit, you're taking hills no problem. Now you're ready to roll in 2 20-minute sessions in zone 2. Once you can do all that comfortably, you are ready to enter the novice trainee. So I define a novice trainee as someone who can improve their cardio in a week or less. So if you're noticing this week your cardio is a little better than last week, you're a novice trainee. You improved your cardio in a week or less. 2 to 3 60-minute sessions in zone 2. And that's your easy jog. That's what they used to call junk miles. What's important is not how far you go and how fast you go. What's important is you're at that conversational pace for 60 solid minutes, plus a warm-up and a cool-down. And then you're going to do interval sessions, 1 to 2 a week. Start with 1 and move up to 2. If time's a factor, when you move to 2, you can drop one of the 60-minute zone 2 sessions. So you'd end up doing 2 times 60 in zone 2 and then 2 times a week the interval session. So your interval sessions, you're going to have 10 to 15 minutes of warm-up, then 3 to 6 intervals as follows: 4 minutes in zone 4 and then 2 to 3 minutes in zone 2. So you probably start off with a 3-minute rest and work your way down to 2-minute rest, and that naturally increases the intensity. Do 10-minute zone 2 cool down and a 5-minute zone 1 cool down. I gotta stress, the warm-ups and cool downs are really important on a beta blocker. Your heart warms up slower and your heart cools down a little slower sometimes. You don't want like a whole bunch of palpitations later in the day. Do a nice proper cool down. It really makes a difference. The advanced trainee, noticeable gains occur over a period longer than a week. If you're doing 7 miles an hour and it takes like 2 weeks to get to 7.1 miles an hour or a month, you're advanced. You're at the advanced stage. So what I recommend for the advanced trainee is 2 times 60 minutes a week in zone 2, mix in some cross training. So you're starting to put some miles under you now, so maybe you want to switch it up a bit. You want one of those sessions to be on the bike, you get less impact. You're in zone 2, 60 minutes twice a week, and you might even mix in some zone 1 sessions here and there, junk miles. You're going to do 1 long run a week or long ride, 75 plus minutes in zone 1 to 2-ish. You're sort of at the edge between the two, but the point is it's 75 to 90 minutes. Okay, that's your long run. You're going to do that once a week, and twice a week you're going to do interval sessions. You're going to do 10 to 15 minutes in zone 2 warm up. You're going to do 5 to 10 intervals of 2 to 4 minutes in zone 2, and then 1 to 2 minutes, or zone 4, and then 1 to 2 minutes in zone 2, 10-minute zone 2 cool down, and a 5-minute zone 1 cool down. So that's going to be 2 really potent interval sessions that don't go too long, combined with your zone 2 sessions and your long run. Now you have a prescription and apply consistently going forward. Strength training. What I learned about being a powerlifter on beta blockers is if that you don't have a good cardio base, just forget it. Just forget it, because you're just going to jack your blood pressure up and your heart rate's going to spike up to like zone 5 and your blood pressure is going to skyrocket because you don't have the cardio to support your now more delicate heart. So I used to go do bench presses and I would just trigger my AFib and I'd be in the hospital that night getting shocked. Just get your cardio under control first. Get your cardio under control first. I can't stress this enough. Without that cardio base, if you haven't moved up to novice trainee, maybe just consider not strength training until you've hit that point. Prioritize cardio. You're on beta blockers for a reason. People don't go on beta blockers because they can't lift enough, because they can't bench enough. They go on beta blockers because they have circulation issues. Having said that, some guys just gotta lift. So, strength training. Strength training advice that I'm going to give is based off your cardio ability, not how much you can lift. So my guidelines for the cardio couch potato: stick to body weight training, maybe some isolation in the weight machines, or some easy yoga. Yoga actually builds strength. It doesn't get enough credit for that, but it actually builds strength, especially all those isometric moves. Really does build strength and has other benefits to your flexibility and balance that should not be overlooked. You want to monitor your heart rate just like you do when you're running, and you want to keep your heart rate in zone 1 to 2. You don't want your heart rate going up into zone 4 and 5. You don't want your perceived exertion being up in zone 4 and 5. No, your cardio system's not up for that yet, so why do it? And you're going to take enough time between sets to have a good proper recovery. Now normally in a novice, because you're lifting less, that means 2 minutes. The novice trainee, you're making gains about weekly on your cardio. This got nothing to do with your strength, but this is going to determine my recommendation for your strength workout. So body weight training remains good. Isolation, weight machines, yoga, and fitness classes. Like there's some strength-based fitness classes, maybe with a kettlebell. They will build strength. There's some body weight mixed in, so that's an option for you. Monitor your heart rate. You want to keep into zone 2. If you drift into zone 3 the odd time, that's just fine, but you want to stay in zone 2. Your heart rate and your perceived exertion should drop to near the bottom of zone 1 before you start your next set, okay? Because you're there to build strength, not cardio. But you want to protect your heart and your blood pressure. You don't want to jack your blood pressure to the moon while you're doing this and damage your heart. For the advanced trainee, if your cardio is where you're at the advanced level, I mean, it's now you can go at it, okay? So this is where I am, and I've resumed powerlifting, and I'm making gains, and I'm very much enjoying it. So body weight training, isolation, weight machines, no problem. Yoga, fitness classes, free weights, and barbells. I feel like you could probably start barbells at this point and get some heavy weight. You're going to monitor your heart rate, and you're going to keep the majority of your time in zone 2 to 3. Okay, you can drift into zone 4 maybe near the end of a squat or a deadlift session. That's fine. You want to stay out of zone 5 as a habit, especially if you're just getting under the barbell for the first time in a while. And you want adequate recovery where you get down to zone 1 between sets and that your muscles are ready for the next one. So you're adding in this layer of recovery time where you're checking in with your heart rate and how you feel your perceived exertion to make sure you're at zone 1. So it's a little bit different mindset. You're basing your lifting volume and your reps and sets off your cardio ability, and you're prioritizing cardio, even though in your mind you might actually rather be a strength athlete, because like I said, you're on beta blockers for a reason. So let's sort that out. Anyway, I'm going to put some links below. I think I might add a spreadsheet where you can go in and calculate your starting magic numbers based on whether you're a novice or advanced or whichever, and I'll break out the zones for you. So I'll probably just create a quick Google spreadsheet and link it below, and you can make a copy for yourself or download a copy and use that if it's helpful. I'll put the PowerPoint slides up as well in case you want to print a page and use it as a guide, pin it next to your treadmill. And you know, if you have any questions, just post them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer as time allows. I determine to answer every question that someone asks about working out on beta blockers, and it's something you can do. Get your medical clearance and get started, because I mean, since I've started my cardio program, I've gone off 3 blood pressure medications. I've cut my beta blocker from 300 milligrams a day to 50, all with my cardiologist's consent and support. So, I mean, the difference this has made in my life is amazing, and I encourage you to go out and experience that for yourself. And we're here to support you at Restless Hearts Club. Okay? Have a wonderful day.